old world back, and with it for me a sense of being able to experience the gaming moments that are fond in my memory from when I was much younger and playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle back in the mid-80s with the brilliantly flawed 3rd edition. Now, there are countless YouTube creators who have had early access to rules and models, and as such, my stream especially is covered with multiple battle reports, rules read-throughs, and that it would be very difficult for me to try and offer some form of content that A, I would be happy putting out, and B, would not be somewhat just a rinse and repeat of all the excellent stuff that is already out there. But I'm older. I've been around this game for a long time in its various editions, and even played the unofficial 9th Age rules when GW put the game to bed in the end times for its movement onto Age of Sigmar. So can I make use of that experience and offer anything to you? Well, one thing I have seen on various groups is a slight unhappiness that the game at present is being offered with a marked number of older sculpts and older plastic sets. Now, I fully understand this. I know everyone, including myself, wants shiny new models to go along with a shiny new game to be able to slobber over. I'm actually sure these range refreshes will actually be coming down the road, but at the moment we shall have to wait and somehow see the availability for GW to put the full range of they have available to them at the moment, and then update the ranges over time. What I will say, however, is that maybe you might not be looking back far enough. And what I'm going to try and do here is try and champion some even older Oldhammer models that I think can sit quite happily alongside newer models and maybe be used to add a bit of character to your rank and flank armour. I mean, with the being a number of characters you can take in the game, the champions within the units, there is the chance to maybe mix and match some true vintage in if you would like to for your game. What I'm going to do here on the channel is to do a series of videos in which I'm going to try and highlight 5 miniatures from ranges of miniatures that I think may be worthy of your interest. Now, this is not solely my opinion. I have asked a number of my friends to make their suggestions, and these friends range from content creators, for people who have been in the games for years, people who have basically are quite a lot newer to playing war games, and which I have shown old issues of Citadel catalogues to allow them to look through the miniatures that were available back in the 80s and 90s. So hopefully I've got a good spread of thoughts and a good spread of what types of miniatures that we're going to put on our top 5. But I would like to hear your thoughts. Please comment below about the suggestions that we have made, whether you agree with them or not, and maybe make your own suggestions and see if you can change our top 5. So for this, we're going to set some criteria. And we're going to put some markers that our selections must be able to achieve. Number 1 is costs. So for a single character model for this game, we can only base it on what is currently available from Games Workshop, and especially from Forge World, with the release of the brilliant Questing Knight Paladin that come out with the Bretonnian range, which is priced at a figure of £23. 2, it must be able to sit quite happily alongside newer ranges from itself, because we all know the effects of scale creep within miniatures that happens over the years. So what we don't want to do is the miniature to take away or to add a detrimental effect to the overall visual effect with our armour. Third, I want to be able to find the painted examples of these models, either ones I do for myself from my own collection, but more importantly, I would like to get examples from you guys in the community to ensure that these models can be painted to a standard that again isn't going to be too far out what can be done with the more modern miniatures. And finally, 4, the models themselves are going to be selected for either the core armies that are available to us in the Forces of Fantasy and Ravening, but also I'm going to add in the Legacy Army PDFs, because we all know there are people who play these armies and people who have an interest in these armies, even though they cannot be officially played in events that's run by Games Workshop. With independent events that are going to be going on all around the world, I'm sure these armies will be making it onto the table. So as such, I'm not going to disregard them in terms of the 5 that we've selected. So let's start this countdown. In at number 5, and to kick this series off, is one of my standout favourites. I remember getting this model in a Christmas haul back when I was 11 in 1986. And we're going to be kicking off with Chaos. So this model comes from a time where we were to soon be spoilt with the publishing of the Realms of Chaos books. But for now, with 3rd edition in play, we are having a more undivided Chaos vibe to the armies of Chaos, and not really exploring the individual gods as would happen for the most part after 1998 with the release of Realm of Chaos. So back to issue 81, September 1986, Jez Goodwin and the design team give us a range of Warriors of Chaos. So this set of models including the model that would later receive a full updated sculpt itself years after its production, because it was voted one of the best miniatures ever created. And for that, we're obviously talking about the amazing Slambo, whose design went on to be a benchmark for future Chaos ranges. But this is not our choice. In fact, we're going to highlight what the poster boy was for the range. And for that, we're going to talk about, in my mind, the even more spectacular Mighty Zug Arkwright. Now, I love the fact that these models were first off given names when they were first produced. And these names were often sometimes cast into the slot strip. And it's quite fun to actually think of the design team, they're racking their brains, trying to come up with the names for these miniatures. But Mighty Zug wasn't originally planned for this range. In fact, the model was first designed as an alternative sculpt for games of Talisman, which was a board game that GW were carrying during this period. Now, to get hold of these eras of models, there's mainstay places like eBay, websites like Troll Trader, but there are also specific online groups who deals solely with a marketplace for Oldhammer models, and these are often worth trawling your way through to see what types of models they throw up. So what did Zug cost us? Again, we've got that benchmark of the £23 that's based on the Bretonian Questing Paladin. And with this model, I can say that I don't think this model has ever had a lick of paint on it, unless it's been stripped using some kind of product which completely obliterates all traces of existing paint that would have been on the model. So this is basically an as new factory fresh model, and it came in at £9. So first off, our criteria of cost for this model, less than half, so that's been completely blown out of the water. Next is the scale. So luckily, not too long ago, GW gave us a refresh of the Slaves to Darkness armour. So we have a slightly more up-to-date reference to have a look at scale and size. Now, these updated models, I can say, are not really designed to add individual character to a unit, but to be used as rank and flank. So as such, the inclusion of this Oldhammer model is there to add individual character and add a little flavour to each unit, as it will be acting as its champion. So as you can see, by having these miniatures next to each other, the Oldhammer miniature actually slightly holds up to the newer model. Maybe it's slightly a bit shorter, but therefore then with some creative basing choices that can be made, I can basically say that maybe you'll be able to change it where the contrast is not too stark. But a caveat could also be put in here, as this is being related to GW heroic scale miniatures. But we all know there's other companies that we have miniatures available to us that would work within the Oldhammer world. That's from third-party sellers and even through the medium of printing them ourselves with the 3D printed market that's available. So as such, maybe to only compare Zug to a GW model is again not giving it its full benefit. And what you'd have to look is if the scale of this Oldhammer model actually ties in and may look better with the scale of the miniatures that you've decided to put on the table. And the last is paint. I did put a general shout out on my social medias for anyone who had a painted example of this model, and I've been lucky enough to find Wraithwisp on Instagram, whose paint really knocked the model out of the park. And I hope that if you don't mind, the link to his Instagram account will be in the comments below. So please go and follow him and have a look at the work he does, because there's loads of Oldhammer goodness for you to see. And I know I'll be using more examples of his paint within this series as it goes forwards. I suppose what I'm trying to do with this video is to go away from videos you see on YouTube when you put about Oldhammer miniatures in. A lot of them are looking back and trying to find, oh, what's the worst miniature that GW ever produces? Let's try and find the crappiest one that GW ever produced. But I feel that there are some gems in the Oldhammer collections that more than stand up to today's miniatures. And what I'm trying to do is maybe shine a light that you have to look back into the past to see the development of these models, and also to pay kudos to the sculptors who were working for GW at that time. They didn't have the availability of the technologies that today's more modern miniature market has. So the detail is handcrafted, and as such, each one of the models develops a lot more character. So what do you reckon? Right or wrong? Would you have made another choice for an Army of Chaos? If so, I would love to hear your ideas. Please put them in the comments below of what models you maybe would like to champion for the Chaos range. And also, maybe put in the comments below an example of what your top 5 miniatures from the Oldhammer ranges you would like to put forwards. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Please, if you could, like and subscribe, as it can really help the channel, especially as this is a fledgling channel trying to start off a bit more in depth this year. I can't wait to share my number 4 with you in the next episode. So please, again, with the notification settings, maybe set it so you're there and you can see what miniature I'm going to champion next time. And let's see if you agree with me on that one. So again, moving into a new year, now that January 2024 is over and done with, I'd like to still wish you the availability that no matter where or what type of game you play, whether it's set in the deepest dungeon or on the highest starship, that you are having fun, and I'll speak to you next time.